But this year, the Barbados Defence Force is celebrating its 45th anniversary of establishment. And the actual date is August 15th. We're going to be celebrating along with them until such time. They'll be observing this milestone under the theme, Proven Excellence, Shaping a Positive Future. So I'm lucky to have a few good gentlemen joining me on set this morning to talk all about all of the work that they've done through the years and what they're doing even now. A special welcome to Barbados Regiment Captain Shane Drakes, Officer Commanding Special Operations Company.
Good morning, Tisha.
Great to have you here. Good to see you again.
Thank you again.
And also with us is Sergeant Kyle Mears, Platoon Sergeant, Special Operations Company.
Hi, good morning, Tisha.
Good morning. I told them already that they're looking like it's a chore. They're like, yeah.
This is our military faces.
This is the military face. So do I need to put on a military face too?
Yes, just
I'm always grinning. That won't happen. I probably won't get recruited for that reason, but you know, that's just my demeanor. Always a big smile on my face. First of all, I mean, thank you for the work that you do. I think that's important to say first off the bat, because a lot of the times we kind of see you guys driving by in trucks, and there are not a lot of people who understand the depth of the work that you guys do, not only outside of Barbados, but more certainly here in Barbados. So I'm going to start with you, Captain Drakes. Tell us a little bit about the Special Operations Company and the work that you do here on island.
Yes. Special Operations Company is one of the subunits of the Barbados Regiment, which are the person you'll see wearing this beautiful green uniform. Special Operations Company is responsible for the operations on a day-to-day basis for the Barbados Regiment on behalf of the Barbados Defence Force. Usually we provide duties alongside and in collaboration with the Barbados Police Service. We also work jointly with the Barbados Fire Service and any other agency that requires our assistance. So besides doing the joint patrols with the police, we are called upon to do rescues of persons who have been fallen into wells, who've become trapped in places. So we also have that fighting part of us, which is the full infantry, guns and bullets and boots. And we also have that assistance to persons that we can provide using HADR. We have persons who are trained in urban search and rescue as well. So the company has grown throughout the years from just commando squadron, where it's just guns and bullets, into a more diverse subunit within the Barbados Regiment.
All right, so I'm here to kind of dissect things. And you said HADR, which is Humanitarian Aid and Disaster Relief.
Yes, please.
Now, I had to ask you about that beforehand. Sergeant Mears, you are Platoon Sergeant with the Special Operations Company. Talk to me about your rise through the ranks, because looking at you, you look fairly young to be a Platoon Sergeant. Talk to me more about that, unless, you know, your age belies the look.
I think it does. I would have joined the Barbados Defence Force in 2013. I worked my way up through the ranks from a recruit to a rifleman, then on to a section 2AC and a section commander, up to where I am now, currently a platoon sergeant. My job within Special Operations Company is the platoon sergeant for number 2 platoon, where I focus on maintaining discipline and maintaining morale, as well as administering to the platoon within Special Operations Company.
All right, that's a lot of work. That's a lot to do on a day-to-day. Talk to me about some of the responsibilities that you guys have in terms of going out, in addition to the joint operations with the Barbados Police Force, the Barbados Police Service, or maybe the fire service, or what have you. I'm interested in the HADR, and I know that you guys kicked into high gear, especially when there was COVID. You had a lot to do. Talk to me more about that.
Okay, so, well, I was first you start with COVID. Well, during COVID, as you know, the whole of Barbados went into entire lockdown, curfew, everything. So some of our duties we perform whereas assisting the Royal Barbados Police Force at the time with the curfew patrols, keeping persons who are not supposed to be on the road, off the road. And on the more humanitarian side, we would have aided the government's initiative to help in delivering care packages to those who would have been in need throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, and Captain Drakes, I know that a number of times, all of a sudden, we had to transport people to different facilities and so on. And I saw a few ambulances that might have been a different division from you guys, but all, of course, falling under the force, under the HADR banner. Yeah. So,
Yes,
you know, outside of that, talk to me about some of the other things that the company undertakes.
During COVID, we would have been one of the isolation centers, so we would have to provide safe housing for persons who were traveling in and out of Barbados while they waited on their COVID tests to return. So we provided that assistance to them in terms of housing, feeding, and security to make sure that no person breached the guidelines. Besides that, and not just Special Operations Company, but the entire Barbados Regiment and Barbados Defence Force would have provided all that logistical support to aid persons with transporting persons who came down with COVID from whichever facility they were at down to Harrison's Point. All of our medics, which are assigned to the Barbados Regiment, were deployed to assist with swabbing, whether it be at the airport, the seaport, or our isolation facilities. So we really had a large footprint during COVID. Post-COVID, as the island started to come back to a sense of normalcy and we started to get back crop over and those events going on, as usual, persons would see a lot of soldiers on the road, especially for 4-day morning and Grand Kadooment. We started to transition back to those events as you will see us doing this year prior to our anniversary coming in line.
All right, that certainly is a lot of work to be done. How big is this company? How big? You said you're a sergeant with responsibility for platoon number 2.
Yes.
So how many platoons? How big is the Special Forces company?
Special
Operations company.
Special Operations. So we have 3 platoons and a company headquarters. I'm the person in charge. I have a 2AC, a sergeant major who's responsible for discipline, morale, drill, deportment, the whole set of basic principles that soldiers require to have. And then each platoon has their own commander and sergeant. The commander is the person that controls all the operations, and the sergeant is his second in command, who does mostly with the logistics, the administration, making sure that the soldiers are ready for deployment on a day-to-day basis. Sergeant Mears as well is responsible for a lot of the training that we do at Paragon Base, and he has gone on numerous courses to prepare him. Though he may look young, he was a person.
Old? I'm sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
Though he may look young, and in his short 11 years in the service, he's one that we would have seen something in from the time he was a recruit, and we would have put some effort and emphasis into him, into guiding him, into molding him and shaping him as one of the future leaders of the force.
All right, good stuff. That must, really make you feel a kind of way really good to hear that, you were seen for the effort you put in and level of effort for the time that you've been a part of the organization, really, to be able to move through the ranks. Absolutely. All right, what about the other operations that you do? I know that we mentioned just before we came on that you also have responsibility for some stuff off the island.
Yes, so currently we have some guys in Carriacou, which is one of the states of Grenada, and they're there providing security operations. Although they're doing security, they can easily transition to doing HADR. So when they first arrived, the port wasn't up to state. So those guys would have assisted in cleaning and clearing the port, excuse me, receiving humanitarian aid, anything that comes in from any of their sister state, and helping with distribution. So those guys could easily transition from hardcore security into providing humanitarian aid and assisting our sister nations within the Caribbean.
All right, Sergeant Drakes, are there any specific areas based on your training and so on that you have a preference or maybe not in terms of whether there's a preference for HADR as opposed to straight out military operations if there's an opportunity for that? Are there any differences for you?
For me, my preference is currently range management, where I would have done a number of courses which would develop me to safely run ranges. From static ranges to ranges where persons can actually move and shoot. And that currently right now is where I specialize in and where I see myself doing most of the work to help develop a special operations company.
Good stuff. What are some of the areas that you're responsible in terms of training for anybody who's looking on, maybe some new recruits who are looking to come in? I know for some people sometimes they're a little taken aback because they're not sure, what will be expected of them. And I'm not sure that we can express all of that in one interview on television. But for new recruits coming in, what would you say to them about the approach they should have based on the fact that, you've been able to move through the ranks based on your demeanor and your attention and how you felt about the service? What advice would you give to them, people who might be interested?
Well, first, you must have an open mind. Apart from having an open mind, you must be disciplined, as well as it's not the career is not something where it's always fitting for everyone. However, for those interested, what would aid you in being successful in a recruiting is having an open mind. Don't allow anything to, let's say, get to you, although some things will. Have a straight off open mind and just take it as it comes. You'll have easy days, you'll have more rough days than easy days.
As is the case with every career. So, I'm happy that, that you mentioned that you really have to be open-minded about what you do in terms of, existing in that particular space. What would you say about or to young people maybe looking on who might want to be a part of the service?
To the young people coming in, I would have joined the service in 2003, going through the senior recruiting, so I know exactly what is required. They have to understand that what they see soldiers driving on the street, doing crop over operations, they may think that that's what it is to the Army, but it's more diverse and dynamic than that. We look to foster sound relationships. We have things such as drill that builds teamwork. We also have a lot of physical training involved because soldier has to be fit to fight. As Sergeant Mayer said, he focuses on range practices, so the soldiers also have to be able to shoot accurately and be able to engage targets at different ranges and different distances. So persons coming in just have to maintain an open mind. They have to understand that the Barbados Defence Force is not an 8 to 4 job. We are in camp sometimes 72 hours, 96 hours. If there's a event going on in the island, not just operational wise, like for example, Hurricane Beryl, then we would be in camp from at least 48 hours prior and 48 hours plus post the passing of the hurricane or tropical storm. So that being home with your family, which they will be accustomed to during these natural disasters, that wouldn't be a case. So they have to get accustomed to being away from their families. That's why our recruiting is between 5 to 6 months, so that they get accustomed being not at home, not accustomed to the TV, the devices and everything. So that when they're deployed into theater, as we have guys now, there's no electricity, there's no running water, there's no sound shelter, that those soldiers are prepared for those tasks. We actually have some of those soldiers who are doing at least 9 months in service and they're being deployed overseas into these conditions that we've trained them for. Like for me, my first deployment was after 14 years. For them, they're getting it at a faster pace. So those persons coming in have to understand that you could recruit, pass out today, and be deployed overseas to help one of our sister nations in either security operations or HADR.
Let's talk a little bit more about roles and responsibilities within the Special Operations Company. Of course, we've gotten to know the two of you a whole lot more. So, platoon sergeant and commanding Special Operations officer, commanding or commanding officer for the Special Operations. Yes. What are some of the other roles that make up the Special Operations Company, based on all of the work that you do?
So the makeup of Special Operations Company, because it's a base isolated by itself, we have personnel that can provide logistical support. We have a CQMS, which is our quartermaster. That person is responsible for all the stores, organizing the feeding, the uniform, making sure the soldiers have the kit required to carry out their daily operations or daily tasks, whether it be from PT at the start of the morning, all the way through to training throughout the day till it's time to leave. We also have persons, artisans within the troops, some guys who join the force with skills such as plumbing, masonry, carpentry. We hone those skills of those persons, and we also send some persons to the SJPA to learn some of those skills so that the base can be as self-sufficient as possible. Because should a natural disaster happen and we're cut off from the rest of Barbados, we still have to be able to fix home first so that we can support the wider community.
All right, that's a lot of work, a lot of stuff going on. And Sergeant Mirazu told me that you take on quite a few roles yourself, from administration to training and everything in between. What are some of the roles for the guys who kind of fall into your platoon and responsibilities based on, joint operations, or when you head out, what's the general, obviously you talked about the role you play, but what about the other guys that are part of your platoon?
So the other guys who fall beneath me within my platoon, we will have the section commander, the section 2ACs, and the rifleman. My platoon has 3 sections. That means we have 3 section commanders, 3 2ACs. The purpose for this is for command and control. Although I might have an officer above me and I'm the platoon sergeant, I cannot be every place at once. Therefore, we have dedicated responsibility to the 3 section commanders to help manage as well as train the riflemen beneath them.
All right, so that's a lot of responsibility. I want to thank you guys for coming in and sharing. I know that sharing in this way is not necessarily something that you do every day, but for this 45th anniversary, I think it's wonderful that you're kind of stepping out of the box and coming out to be able to share exactly what you do, what the Barbados Defence Force does, what you've been doing for the last 45 years, and how you continue to serve not only Barbados and its citizens, but our Caribbean neighbors at times as well. So thanks for coming in. Of course, we had Officer Commanding Special Operations, Captain Shane Drakes, and Sergeant Kyle Mears, Platoon Sergeant for Special Operations Company, sharing with us.